Right. So what you originally said, though, what's your name, by the way?
My name's Jim.
Jim. And you start driving when you were how old?
59.
59. And you said you're 72?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you just said that trucking is the great equalizer.
Well, it is from an individual basis.
Mm-hmm.
Trucking firms, they don't care who you are.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care what sex you are, what color you are.
Mm-hmm.
All they're interested in is, are you a safe, capable driver? And women make really good drivers in particular. And, that's all they care about, and they just want a good, safe driver that can pull their freight for them.
Right.
So I think that it's a equal opportunity industry.
And you see a lot of women out here.
Yeah, you do. And,
I mean,
and the good part about it is that everybody, if you and I drove for the same company, we're making the same amount of money. It doesn't matter, if you're making a good living, we're all making a good living. So,
well, the one who produces more when you're cent per mile type of situation,
exactly.
You're going to make more than the man if you're running harder, better, smarter than
right. Exactly. Better, smarter.
Right.
Will make you more money. It has to, I had this is getting off the subject. When I went through training with the trainer, I was a pretty good driver. So about the second or third week of my training, he says, "All right, Jim, I'm going to teach you how to make money." And then we spent the next few weeks going through the process of the things that you needed to do to make more money in the industry. And it's been really helpful. And here I am, 72 years old, and still driving.
That's awesome.
See, that it's not age discriminatory, any of those things. I mean, I have a friend, Alvin, who's 82, excuse me. Still driving.
82.
82.
Wow.
And
So what do you drive? What kind of freight? What division?
I'm a dry box,
Dry box.
dry van. I like no-touch freight so that you don't have to load and unload.
Yeah, don't touch that freight. I'm too lazy.
It's just that I'm too old. So I like the freight that they load at the box and somebody else unloads it.
That's right. That sounds good. So, did you go to a CDL school and then go to company training, or did you go get your CDL through a company?
Yes, I drive, should I say that?
Sure.
CFI.
Oh, I have friends at CFI. They're going to be so excited
They're very
about this.
close to where you work at the farm. Their headquarters is in Missouri as well. But CFI has a really interesting process. I went to driver's training school at a CDL training school.
Okay. But not through them, because they
through
do
them.
Crowder
They do have
and
that
Truck
offer now.
Dynasty.
When I did it, they didn't do
Okay.
that. But when you come to work for them, what caused me to pick CFI over other companies? I was looking at about 5 in my interest range, and all of them want conscientious, safe, drivers, safe in particular.
Right.
But they were the only company that put their money where their mouth is, and they spent money an extra week of driver training before you go to work for them. So they helped you to be the driver that they wanted you to be. Everybody was wanting to demand a safe driver, but they did things that caused you that would help you to be that safe driver they want you to be. And so that was the reason I picked the company.
So that's where you still work? That's where you work now. So how long you been there?
I'm starting my 15th year. I've been there 14.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
Because we have here so many people that just bounce around from company to company.
I think that the trucking industry is pretty lucid. And unlike other businesses, they don't hold, people quitting without a whole lot of notice and then allowing them to come back. There's a lot of ebb and flow
Bouncing, yeah.
to the employment industry in trucking. So you see a lot of my friend Alvin, who 82 still drives, has quit CFI 3 times and rehired 3 times.
So he's still there? That's where he's at now?
Right.
Awesome. Well, see, I have a friend Tony and a friend Scott. They work for CFI, and sometimes they get mad because they think I put too much Prime content up, but it's people ask me questions because of Prime.
Right.
So, and one of the things is, do you get that people just say CFI is a starter company and nothing else? Because that's something I get.
Absolutely not. We have in our Joplin location, the big main office, a wall of pictures of drivers demonstrating how long they've been with the company. There's 3 million milers, 4 million milers. There's a huge, and it's hundrds of them. So it's obvious that there's people that go to work for CFI and stay there a long time.
That's cool. But you weren't surprised that I was a woman. You see plenty of women drivers. You weren't shocked.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, I said before early in this, that I think women make really good drivers. Now, sometimes on the physical aspect of cranking up stubborn landing gear and stuff, that can be a problem. But I'm going to say this, it sounds a little bad. I apologize.
That's okay.
Women are a little more nervous about truck driving than men are. And as a result, it makes them more careful. And careful is what
makes you safe.
All these companies are after.
Right.
A careful driver. So that's the reason I think that they make good drivers. As far as driving that truck down the highway and doing all the stuff that needs to be done, as far as picking up, delivering all, how is what they do any different from what anybody else does? There's not any difference.
So if you see a woman struggling and she's asking for help, do you ever have that thought of, well, if you can't do the job, you shouldn't be here?
Oh no, that thought never enters my mind. If that person needs help, they need help. There's a lot of times when we have to slide our tenants to get them in the position that the customer wants them in. Sometimes they're very stubborn, and you need somebody taking care of the tandem in while the driver is up there getting that landing gear to shake loose so that they can move the tires. And if they need that kind of help them.
That's
My friend
awesome.
Alvin is old. Sometimes he gets a hold of those landing gears that you just can't crank. He hunts somebody else up and asks them, hey, will you crank this up for me? And they do.
Do you think the guys out here are more likely to help a woman before they help a man, especially with the backing? Do you think sometimes guys get ridiculed for not being able to back up when they're new, and maybe a woman, they just kind of figure, oh, it's a woman, I'm going to go help?
That's a really good question. I have seen drivers that would not give a woman the time of day when it comes to trucking. There's also drivers that will give whatever help and take instruction if that's what's needed from anyone. If you're helping me back into a spot I'm having a hard time with, or on the blind side back, I don't care who you are. I'll take that help.
That's what I say.
If we can get it in there with no contact, then we have done it. That was a good back, no matter how long it took.
I hear you. So do you have any advice for new drivers?
That's another good question. No, it's just the typical ones, just stay vigilant.
Communicate with dispatch, plan to park, that kind of thing.
I could give you some advice that I give all the guys that want to talk, ask me about. You know, in my company, we're on force. If you're a company driver, you're force dispatch. Whatever load they give you, you got to take. But you really aren't on force dispatch. Sometimes it's not what you say, but how you say it. You can call your dispatcher and say, boy, this is a really ugly load. Take a look at this. Put them on your team, you know, and then they might say, oh, man alive, that's horrible. Let's do something different. And so you don't always, just because it's forced dispatch, it isn't necessarily forced dispatch.
That's something that I've said on my channel a lot, and one thing, like, here's an example. I don't go to the Birmingham, Alabama pilot. I've been there 3 times, and they'll send me there to fuel, and I just don't feel safe there. I was grabbed by somebody while walking in who demanded money from me, and then guys got into a fist fight over something stupid, and I just don't feel safe going there, so I don't go there. I don't get sent there. I don't, if I have a problem, people don't believe that, but it's the same thing with certain customers. There's a customer in Cincinnati I refuse to go to because they're out in the open in the downtown area with criminals walking around, and I'm not doing it.
Yeah, that used to be a problem in Nashville, Tennessee at the TA there. It's right down near downtown, and it had a lot of transient activity in it.
But we don't see that much.
Going there, and it wound up closing up because of this transient activity.
Wow.
And I think they made it more secure and have reopened. But there's places that I don't go.
Yeah.
Even me, and as far as a safety standpoint. But it takes time to learn those places, where they are, and which ones you want to go to or not go to. But for the most part, I'd like to say that truck stops are, for the most part, a really safe place.
I was just going to say, in the past 5 years, it seems like we don't have the beggars and the transients and con artists as much as when I first started. So I'm not sure if that has to do with COVID or if it has to do with them taking security.
I think you're correct on your observation. I mean, used to that there was recreational folks that came into the truck stops, mostly for men, and they have since disappeared from truck stops. I don't know what they've done to discourage that, but I just don't see it anymore at all. For just like you said, 5 or 6 years, it just disappeared.
Oh, if the demand's not there, they don't go. So the guys are just not partaking, I think, part of it. I personally did see an officer. It was an undercover officer, so I think maybe men are a little bit more afraid. And Truckers Against Trafficking is an organization of trying to get truckers to report things of that nature with the human trafficking. So I think a lot of those different things combined could have contributed. But
me as a truck driver, I've been married a long time, and I know what some of the rules are to stay married, and I try to follow those at all times.
It's also to stay alive, not just to stay married, stay alive. Because she might have that double indemnity insurance on you. But you don't feel unsafe here. Is there any place you feel unsafe, or do you have any suggestions for safety for new drivers? Because I've gotten a lot of women who are over 50 that have been coming in because of COVID. They lost their jobs, they lost their businesses. So that's one of the major concerns that they have is, am I going to be safe out here? Am I going to be safe at the truck stops? Are men going to be like watching me go back and forth and,
They're actually, you'd be surprised, men, I know that I feel this way, that I have, if there's a woman out there, I will intentionally observe her to make sure that she goes and comes in a safe manner. If I've got the curtains pulled and I'm asleep, I can't do
Right.
that. But if I'm in the front, I can. And I think that that's something that you need to do for all drivers. You need to do it for all drivers. But women in particular, because they're more vulnerable and more.
Well, we're physically
put
weaker.
upon.
Yeah, we're
Well,
physically
you're more
weaker.
put upon by aggressive males than, say, me. You know, I don't have aggressive males following me around. So, yeah. But I feel safe in most of the truck stops.
Yeah.
Now, my company has a trucking truck stop group that they like for us to use, and they're fairly clean and fresh and generally very safe places.
Loves.
Loves,
Yeah.
yes. Okay.
Used to be Pilot and Flying J. Yeah.
It used to be Pilot and Flying J.
I know. See?
But it's actually, it was a big improvement for our company to go to Lowe's.
Okay.
Fuel is cheaper.
They're clean.
Cleaner. Safer. I think part of what causes those Loves to be safer is that most all of them have a maintenance center. So there's a lot of Loves activity
Through the whole thing.
the whole truck stop. And
that's a good point.
and most of the time the repair center is separated from the main building, so you know, they're coming and going and they have their service trucks are in and out, so you get a little more security there than other places that I've been.
Yeah, but as somebody who really had a tough time struggling backing when I first came out here, Loves and Pilots I just avoid it like the plague, you know.
Right.
Yes, and I'm a trainer now, so what I do is I take the little truck stop book and we highlight all the really big places that have 300 and 400 parking spots that you'll find a spot no matter what, you know. And even this place, when we came in last night, it was like 4 o'clock this morning, so yeah, there was parking here.
Right.
You know,
this place that we're at right now is a lot bigger parking area than it looked from the front and the street side. When I got in here, I'm looking, oh my goodness, look at all this parking.
Right.
Big smile on my face.
Exactly. Exactly.
Especially like you said, 4 o'clock in the morning, usually that truck stop is full. So if you can find one that's got parking at that time of day, you're money ahead.
How about weather and shutdown? How does CFI deal with weather shutdowns?
No, they preach to us. You are the captain of your ship, and that you're the only one that knows what the conditions are. And if it's too windy, it's icy or snowy, or you have a visibility problem, they never complain about you taking charge of that situation, because they want you to be a safe driver. It's a whole lot better for that freight to show up late than not show up at all. If it's laying on the side of the road with a truck laying on its side because you've had an accident, well, then that wasn't a good freight movement situation. You always have and you have the choice to be able to make that decision with CFI. So they're good in that regard, and they never complain about when you shut down.
A lot of new people have concerns, though, that they're going to be looked upon, like frowned upon, like looked at as saying, well, that person's not a good enough driver, they could have made it further, that kind of thing. Do you think that management at CFI would actually look at that person and say, oh, they're a bad employee, I expected more from them?
Not at all, especially if they're young drivers. Young drivers just don't have the experience yet to drive in extremely adverse conditions. And if it's beyond their driving abilities, I've never seen them complain about that.
Nobody's losing their job. Nobody's getting threatened that they're going to lose their job.
Nobody's being even counseled.
Okay.
And so that's a good part of that. And they tend to,
I'm going to put this down 1 second.
you know, and they expect that it's going to take.
See? Look, the struggles of women.
They expect that it's, you know, because you came here as a brand new driver, that, you know, you're not going to have the skill of a guy that's been driving 20 years.
Right.
If you've driven for any length of time at all, you know that it's a process, and that learning process goes on for a long time. And it actually probably is a learning process the entire time you're driving.
Now, to my knowledge, and I could be wrong about CFI, new people come in and they're put on a separate fleet, like a beginner's fleet. Do they still do that?
No, the fleet people are just distributed between, you know, they might have 50 fleet managers or however many it is, with a bunch of them. And they are just assigned to a fleet. And
oh, okay.
They're not clustered together with.
Okay.
And most of the fleet managers are pretty experienced, especially weekday ones that are your primary ones. So you know they know what to do and what to tell you.
So you never trained though?
I've been asked to train, but you know we were discussing a while ago about even though I'm pretty forward and guy, I'm a bit on the shy side when it comes to close contact in the truck. And having two people in there for me is just doesn't work. I'm a solo driver, and I will always be a solo driver.
And you must be making decent money if you're staying at the same company for that long.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing I get, that as a company driver, I don't make any money, which makes me laugh. But
it's
or the mega carriers. You don't make any money in a mega carrier. They're evil.
I have put a lot of effort into evaluating pay plans with these different companies. Every carrier out there gets paid the same amount for that load that you picked up. So the profitability is pretty much the same throughout the industry. It has a lot to do with how they structure their pay plan. And I'll give you an example. CFI pays their company drivers on all dispatch miles, loaded or unloaded. So if they ask you to drive 1,000 miles without anything in that trailer whatsoever, you're making the same amount of money as you did when you were pulling freight down the road.
That's right.
So,
plus CFI has,
you know, that's a positive aspect in the pay plans. There are companies that don't pay you as much money when you're pulling empty.
And they do a productivity bonus too, like quarterly, right?
Well, they do for their company drivers, yes.
Okay.
And I don't know what that is.
So you own your own truck?
Yes, I am.
So how long have you had your own truck?
12 years.
12 years. So you started with them, you got your own truck, and you stayed with them even though you're an owner.
Right.
See, that says a lot about a company, in my opinion.
Well,
you know,
if they have a good pay plan that's reasonable.